Welcome to Between Two Coaches, a digital mentors podcast for coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, and experts. I am your host, Norbert Orlowitz, and in each episode, we have a conversation with successful and emerging thought leaders in the mentoring industry to share experiences, insights, and practical strategies to make a bigger impact with our work. This podcast is sponsored by the Digital Mentors Compass Workshop. Unfortunately, most coaches struggle to enroll enough clients and grow their business, not because they're bad at coaching, but simply because they lack clarity and simplicity in their branding and marketing strategy. And that's why we created the Digital Mentors Compass Experience. It's a step-by-step workshop where you will clarify your marketing message and receive an AI-powered marketing report personalized for your specific business and goals. It's an interactive workshop where you will walk away with a personalized roadmap to finally achieve your goals with a simple plan you can actually follow. Register to attend the next workshop for free at compassworkshop.com. Again, that is compassworkshop.com. Today's guest, I am very excited to speak with this gentleman here. Today's guest is Brendon Hansford of IMD Breathwork.com. Brendon is a world-renowned choreographer and director who has worked with some incredible companies and global icons such as Sam Smith, David Guetta, Rod Stewart, and Normani. But his journey didn't stop on the stage. He is now the founder of IMD Breathwork. It's a global movement that's making breathwork accessible and transformative for people around the world. Through a powerful mix of somatic work, sound therapy, and ancient breath techniques, Brendon helps people heal, release, and reconnect with themselves on a deep emotional level. From creative director to breathwork mentor and entrepreneur, his story is a powerful example of what it means to reinvent yourself and help others do the same. Brendon, welcome to the conversation.
Hey, what an intro. Was that me?
Yeah, man. You've got you've got quite the story. I mean, I've been checking you out online, watching some of your interviews and videos, and you've had quite an incredible journey of transformation. I'm really excited and honored that you are here to join us. So I'm going to start off here with a bit of a deep question,
Go on.
just to get this conversation started here. Okay, why do you think that your work, breath work, coaching, mentorship, this business you've started, the creative work that you do, why do you think that it's more important now than ever before, given all the rapid changes that we're seeing in the world today?
Wow, where do I start? So I
Yeah.
actually, it was about 2 years ago. I remember saying this to a friend of mine that I genuinely believe that the next 10 years is all going to be about healing. And obviously, I think the birth of AI has had a lot to do with, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but it has. It's very much taking people's jobs, one. It's definitely becoming people's therapist, which is a little bit scary. We know we've all done it. Hey, ask me a bunch of questions, tell me about myself, and then, ChatGPT literally diagnoses you. But there is so much going on in the world at the moment. Like, how many wars are happening at the moment? There's so much devastation, there's so much cruelty. I believe that prejudice and racism is back up on the rise. I don't think it's something that's disappeared and gone forever. If anything, I think the polarization of governments, countries, the planet is just nuts at the moment. Like, you just got to look at who's in charge to realize that there is so much polarization right now, and there is so much hurt and so much past trauma coming back to bite us all in the ass. And if you believe in generational trauma, there's a ton. There's a lot of people that believe they have been treated badly in the past, which they have, and that's now coming back into play. And then the other far side is coming back in and giving their. It's just, I believe it's polarization that is causing. It's really hard to put into words, but it's just causing such a divide around the world. And of course, when you have a divide, you have hate. When you have hate, you have people being horrible to each other, which creates trauma, which creates problems, which creates people who are angry. And people who are angry, it's not a good recipe. And
Mm.
the irony is it's also creating more loneliness. After COVID, we were all got used to being indoors. A ton of people got scared to go outside. There's so many things that got created. So you've got a bunch of anger, you've got loneliness, and you've got separation, and you've got this massive divide across the world. it's a boiling pot, right? It's going to explode. If we don't do something about it, it's going to explode. And no one really believes in the government anymore. No one believes in pharmaceuticals anymore. Everything has a side effect. You take this drug, there's a side effect. There's always a payoff, right? I forget the correct word for it. But you do one thing that you think is good, and there's always
Those unintended consequences.
Thank you. I couldn't think of that word. The consequences are always there. And that's what's been happening at the moment. And this is why I believe breathwork is become so fundamental, and it's still so new. Like, not many people know what it is. We get messages every single day going, what is this? You know, what is breathwork? Let alone what is IMD breathwork, which is what I do. And what I'm trying to do is educate people that they can actually heal themselves. They can help themselves with something that's fundamentally free. You know, once you understand the ratios, once you understand the science, it's free. You can breathe and release things that you probably even forgot existed. You know, I can tell you a bunch of stories, but I don't want to go off on a crazy tangent just yet, because I know you've got a million questions coming my way. So if I start going now, you won't stop me.
Okay, which I love. I'm sure. I mean, we could probably do a 3-hour Joe Rogan
Yes,
podcast
we
here.
could.
We could probably have an amazing conversation, but I'm going to try to keep
Sure,
you on track. So, we're going to dive into IMD
sure.
breathwork and what makes it unique, what makes it specific, what the process is. But tell me the story, first of all. I mean, you're a
Story.
successful choreographer and film director. You're working with these amazing companies and brands and superstars around the world. I mean, give me a little glimpse of what that life was like. And then what happened to transition you into going down this path of breathwork?
Well, there is a certain irony here, because yes, I've worked with a ton of famous people. I've worked with Sam Smith, Rod Stewart, Rick Ashley, David Guetta, BB Rexa. I've worked with a ton of brands like BBC, ITV, Panasonic, Renault. There's like, I've got a list of a huge amount of brands on my website. You know, I was even one of the creative directors for the opening of Atlantis in Dubai, where Beyonce killed it. Like, she absolutely smashed it on stage. I was one of the creative directors for the event. I didn't get to work directly with Beyonce, which is very annoying, but I saw her once. She smiled at me, and that's enough. I'm happy. But I got to work on the event, and so the overall direction of the event. So I've done some amazing, amazing things. However, the creative life and that life of living the dream, you know, it was always a hustle. I would do a job with Sam Smith. I'm done. That's it. Everyone's going to hire me. I'm in it now. Nothing. Back to the hustle again. Back to the hustle again. Back to the hustle again. So it was always, how many emails can I send? How many phone calls can I make? How many coffee meetings can I go on? How many, you know, I did, I'll tell you a story, like going back a little bit. When I first became a choreographer back in my early 30s, and I switched from being a dancer to a choreographer, and I was trying to think of a way to stand out. So we're going back like 11, 12 years now, right? So I bought a ton of little glass bottles of a cork, and I bought some jelly beans, and I put some jelly beans in there. I printed my business card onto scroll-like paper, dyed it in tea, rolled it up, tied it up, and found out who all the managers were for these production companies, and hand delivered them to every company. I got 3 replies to that, which led to my first big job for Renault. So yeah, you know, finding creative ways to go around it was great, and I love doing it. But when you've been doing it for 20 plus years and you're still hustling, like you said, everything has consequences, right? Everything has a light and a dark. You know, the light side is I got to work with some insane people, some insane companies on some insane sets and shows, and traveled the world and got to do incredible things. But then coming back to it, it was always like, okay, where's the next job coming from? You know, how am I paying my rent? And, you know, living in London, and anyone from London listening to this will completely understand, it's so expensive. You can have an amazing job, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. It wasn't until I moved to Dubai that I actually found some financial security. You know, Dubai is an amazing place, like absolutely incredible. My career just went zoom here, because in London there was 10 of me, right? 10 of me fighting for the same job. Here there was just me. So I put myself into a pond where I was a big fish, finally, and I could do a million different things. So they hired me. Whereas back in England, it was like, if you did a million different things, they were like, oh, you don't specialize. We want someone to specialize. Yeah, but I'm bloody good at all of them. You know, like I'm really good at all of them, so I can do all of that, and I can, you know, monitor the teams, and I can make sure they're doing their job. But it's not a specialty, is it? But here,
Oh my
they appreciate that. They appreciate talent here, so you get paid more. It's a short answer.
Beautiful.
So I completely forgotten your question. So remind me.
Uh, no, it's good. It's good. The shift, the
The
shift. You've
shift.
got this successful
What
career.
happened?
You're
Right.
hustling, like
Yeah.
most of us are doing, or hustling.
So
So what
that was the
happened to
career, and don't
transition
get me wrong,
you?
I do love that career, and I still do creative jobs. So I'm at a luxury point now where I can say no to stuff, and I can say yes to something that actually finds my interest. So what happened? Okay,
Mhm.
rewind a few years. I was in an extremely toxic-y situation. I probably don't need to say anymore. Everyone's going, yeah, understand. And I had this
Been there,
idea.
done that.
You know, I wasn't really spiritual. I was kind of into Pilates and a little bit of yoga, but that's only because I was a dancer. So I physically moved my body. I knew nothing about yoga. I still don't. You know, I knew loads about Pilates because we had to learn it at dance school. So I was kind of physically aware, but I wasn't into anything spiritual. And I'm still really not, but we'll get into that. So I went to Bali
Yeah.
with this kind of intention to find myself and hopefully help someone else that came with me. And I found breathwork and I found sound healing. A lot of the other stuff I thought was a little bit too far for me. Yeah,
Sure.
that. And but breathwork really resonated with me, and it's actually quite funny because the first session I did breathwork, I didn't know I was going to do breathwork. I signed up for something called jungle yoga, and I thought I was going to be doing a downward dog next to a monkey, as you would expect, right? Jungle yoga. So I got there and we sat with crossed legs, which at the time was extremely painful for me as a man trying to flex into his hips. So we were there for an hour breathing, breathing into the different chakras and all this stuff. And again, I'm sat there going, what are we doing? But the person I went with started bawling their eyes out and they were crying and they were releasing. And I just remember thinking, wow, I wonder why that is. Like, what is it? What is it? Because I'm that person, my ADHD kicks in and goes, I want to know everything about what just happened. So I got into looking into breathwork and understanding the kind of science behind breathwork. And then I looked into conscious connected breathing, so somatic breathwork, transformational breathwork, which is the thing that got me hooked. Because I did a transformational session doing some conscious connected breathing for about an hour and 10 minutes. And I cried and I cried and I screamed and I released and my whole body locked up and I shook and I lost connection with my body, disappeared into alternate states of consciousness, came back. And I was like this for about 2 days afterwards, just like, what happened? What happened? And so I carried on down that journey. And of course, ADHD, I made it a career. So I trained up, I became an instructor, and I worked through so much of my trauma in 3 months. And I always say this, that I did more in 3 months with breathwork than I did with 20 years of talking therapy. And that's not me saying talking therapy is bad, because not. Talking therapy is amazing. But for me, I did more in this time. And I had memories and vivid visualizations of situations from when I was a child that I didn't remember at all. They were so far gone, I didn't even know I knew it. And then I, confirmed it with parents. Did this happen? Did this place exist that I've now imagined in my head? Because I am a creative, I could have made it up. And they were like, yeah, how do you remember that? You were like 2 years old. And then, you find,
Wow.
and then you trace it and you realize that that memory is a trigger for a trauma that's been affecting me my whole life for 9 years, giving away my age. So, breathwork just completely catapulted me into a completely different state of mind. I managed to walk away from that toxic situation with nothing. I just went, oh, okay, cool. And the old Brendon would have left a toxic situation broken, ignoring everybody, ruining business connections, not showing up for work, doing everything detrimental until a few months later when I picked myself up. With this, I managed to get myself into a powerful position where I could just walk away. And I was done. There was nothing. There was nothing left. I got rid of everything. It was so weird. And now I can look back and go, oh my God, I was in that because of what happened when I was 2 years old. And then again, what happened when I was 6 years old that, cemented that trauma. And then it happened again when I was 13 years old. So the layer cake, as all the years build up, you then prove to your brain why you've got to be scared of that, or why you've got to do that, or why you've got to attract that, or why you've got to fix this, Yeah. So
Wow.
That being said, rewind a little bit. I've always been into filming, editing, and one of the things I've always been into editing is sound. So I've been a sound editor for 20 plus years. So IMD. So IMD stands for Immersive Multidimensional Breathwork, right? It's spotting the pain points. Now, again, ADHD. If you go to a breath class where you can hear everybody,
A little distracting.
yeah. So obviously, the solution is to cut off everything. So in our sessions, people wear an eye mask, okay, and we black out their eyes. They wear headphones, which are completely knocking out all the sounds. And I create these sound journeys. And because I've been editing for years, I know lots of tricks and fancy little things to do. And so one of the things I do, which isn't crazy fancy, but it's cool if you've never heard it, I can make the sound come from any direction. So you know when you're in a cinema and they do that, whoom, all that, right?
Yeah.
There's something called binaural patterning where you can do it with just two speakers, so headphones, and you can make it sound anywhere. And the same with binaural beats. By having those headphones and creating two frequencies with different frequency sets, you can create a woo, 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 and put the brain into a certain frequency. I'm jumping a little bit, but within these journeys, you've got a main coaching voice. So I write a whole script that lasts an hour and 10 minutes. So I guide you through it. It's all pre-recorded. And then behind you, behind your limbic system, there's subliminal voices, both right and left, and they sound like they're here. And they are just talking to you the whole way through, feeding you affirmations, constantly feeding you. You're amazing. You're the best. You can do this. You're going to live a life of prosperity. You're going to do all these amazing things. And then you've got the binaural beats doing this. Do, 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 do. Then you've got another frequency that I picked that revolves around your head the whole time, and sound effects going left, right, up, down. And it's a huge, the sound journey alone is an experience. Now combine that with transformative, conscious, connected breathing. And it's like, I have breathwork instructors come to my class that have never done anything like this. And they can, they come with that attitude like, I know what I'm doing. And then afterwards they're like, I don't know what I just experienced. That felt like 5 minutes, or that felt like I've been on a massive journey, or I spoke to people, and the stories that come out afterwards are just insane, absolutely insane.
Wow.
And I can talk into the science of the breathwork if you want, but I think you're going to ask that anyway, so I'll wait. I'm holding it in.
Yeah, I have so many questions, and then obviously I'm gonna have to experience this for myself. I did one of your like 10-minute quick fix audios this
Nice.
morning.
How was it?
It's very challenging. So breathwork has been a challenge for me. In my early 20s, I went to theater school and had a really great experience of movement, getting into my body, and we did a lot of yoga and breathwork and stuff. That's the most connected I've ever been to my body. So I have this experience with that, and I've lost all of that over the years, right? With all the practical aspects of life. I have this one friend who's a spiritual coach. He's a friend of mine, but he's also a spiritual coach of mine. And he's always trying to work with me to get into breath work. And every time he does it with me, I mean, I lose it. Like I struggle, like that 10-minute breath exercise, I struggle with pain, with anxiousness, with like uncomfortability. I obviously need a lot more breath work exercise. Like I can feel it. Like this is definitely an avenue. The way you describe the experience, that's okay. The way you describe these experiences sound to me like deep psychedelic experiences. Like I just had a friend do ayahuasca. I've done psilocybin many times myself. And what you're explaining here, what you're describing is tapping into these different levels of consciousness without the need of any type of external hallucinogens and stuff.
So, all right. So I need to talk into the whole science of what's happening. So take the sound journey aside. This is like a compliment, okay? Breath work. So when you breathe in a way that we teach you, we basically teach you to hyperventilate, right? This is why it freaks you out. So when you're going, and ironically, the 10-minute journey you did this morning is a very light version, very, very light version of what we do. Very. Like we tell people to do it to relax them. So when you breathe conscious connected breathing, there is no gap between the breaths. So when you breathe in and you breathe out, there is no pause. When you breathe normally in daily life, there is a gap at the top and the bottom. Okay, and you'll probably notice it now. I've told it through the day. You'll be like, oh, I do. I have a little pause at the top and bottom. Right? When we teach you to breathe like this, and we work with something called the 3-part breath, where you breathe into your belly, you breathe into your chest, and you let it go. right? So 1, you're breathing fast. 2, you're taking in more oxygen than you're letting out. Okay, that's a key. So ratio-wise, when you breathe in, your heart speeds up. When you breathe out, your heart slows down. So of course, when you're breathing in more, you're going into your stress response. You're going into your sympathetic nervous system. You're releasing cortisol, adrenaline, neurotransmitters, so many wonderful things in the body, which all get a bad rep, but if you use it correctly, they're actually amazing for you. So coming back, when you breathe rapidly like this, you off gas and you let out CO2 really fast. Now, CO2 is a waste product to the body, so it cannot create CO2 fast enough to replace the CO2 you're losing, but you are breathing in more oxygen, okay? Now, this is the cool part. There's something called the Bohr effect, B-O-H-R, right? It's all about influencing the CO2 in the body, right? So depending how much CO2 you have in the body, depends how much oxygen you release. So it gets better. I love this part. So there's a protein called the hemoglobin protein. It clings to the red blood cells and it carries the oxygen around the body, right? And if it's getting a lot of CO2, it's a happy protein. It lets go of the oxygen freely and you get extra oxygen in all different places, which is why when you breathe slowly and you slow it down, CO2 builds up. You release more oxygen, you get that feeling of sometimes a little bit high, a little bit more relaxed. Like you're over oxygenating yourself, right? So you get a great feeling. That's why with the yoga practice, you feel so relaxed and you feel so chilled. And actually, generally speaking, it is better to slow down your breath in life. The slower you breathe, the more CO2 comes up, the more oxygen is released, the more you sit in your parasympathetic, which is relax, digest, and rest, right? And if you're in that session, it means cortisol is not being released, which means all your body systems, your immune system, your digestive system can work effectively. Longevity, you live longer, right? Happy days. Rewind. So what we do in our class is we do the opposite. We make you breathe fast. So we lower your CO2. So instantly, within 10 breaths, you're going to feel dizzy and a bit disorientated. Within 3 to 5 minutes, you'll feel tingles all around your body, and that's a low CO2 and the lack of oxygen being released. And it's also to do with calcium ions coming down because of that. And sometimes people get these claw hands. Okay, it's called technique. Now there's a big debate about this at the moment, whether it's good or bad, whether it's dysregulation or it's not. Now, the science is, it's all based on the lack of CO2 and the lack of oxygen and the lack of calcium ions being released. But when it goes too far, it's too far. Your CO2 drops too low. So that's how I base it, okay? So a little bit of technique is cool, but when it gets to painful, bad. We've gone way too far, yeah? We've got to slow it right down. And that's why I'm going to make a proviso here that if you're going to do this type of breathing, you need to do it with an instructor that knows what they're doing and can help you control it, okay? Because everybody's different. Everybody's different, right? Yeah. You could react instantly, and I could take 2 hours to get that, to the same place you got to in 2 minutes. So it depends on you and your body and how much CO2 you have, okay? So coming back again, it's a lot of information here, and I'm dumping it on you. We teach you to breathe fast, 3-part breath. We lower the CO2, which means there'll be less oxygen coming out to the body. So the hemoglobin creates an affinity for the oxygen and holds onto the oxygen. And you go into vasoconstriction, which basically means your body is not getting the oxygen it needs, which is ironic because you're breathing in more oxygen. You with me so far? Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So then what happens next? This is the fun part. Is the brain goes, wow, there's a lack of oxygen. I nearly swore then, but you get the point. Like, oh my God, there's a lack of oxygen. And it goes, okay, we need to preserve the hard drive. So it sends all the oxygen to your limbic system, your amygdala, your hippocampus, your memories, and your emotions. But it takes it away from your logical brain, your prefrontal cortex. So, right? Yeah, this is where it gets good. So think about daily life. You're happy and your brain goes, hey, do you remember that thing you did 5 years ago where you felt like an idiot? Oh, do you remember that? And you go, yeah, great, thanks. And then your prefrontal cortex goes, I don't want to think about this. This makes me feel rubbish. Forget about, distract yourself, Brendon, distract yourself, right? That's what this is doing. But what you're actually doing is you're avoiding actually processing a memory that needs to be processed. That's why it's coming up. You haven't processed it. And I promise you, if you haven't processed it, you'll have a trigger that's constantly getting triggered. Whether you see it or you don't see it, it's getting triggered. That trigger turns into stress, which turns into anxiety, which, it develops way up the chain, eventually depression, and you get the point, right? So that's a trigger coming up going, I need to be processed. Like Kermit the Frog. It needs to be processed, right? So when we put you into this state where the oxygen is being diverted away from the prefrontal cortex, it's called hypocapnia, right? So suddenly this part of the brain goes quiet. Yeah, this is why in the first 5-10 minutes, you'll freak out, you'll struggle, you'll think this is wrong, something's wrong here, what am I doing? This part of the brain will fight you. Literally imagine starving it of oxygen. Imagine starving an animal or monkey of oxygen, right? It's going to freak out. That's what you're doing. So suddenly all the oxygen's going to this part of the brain. And all these memories and emotions can come up and be processed, and actually let them play through. Actually let them be processed in the moment. At the same time, you're releasing serotonin, you're releasing dopamine pretty quickly. And if you breathe deep and if you breathe into that discomfort and you push through whatever's coming up, your pineal gland lights up and goes, what's going on? Wait, there's something wrong here. And releases DMT, which is the same substance you get in ayahuasca, magic mushrooms. So suddenly, you're in your limbic system, all these processed memories, unprocessed memories are coming up, your traumas are coming up, and now you're releasing DMT, and you can go into an alternate state of consciousness to actually deal with it and disconnect with the body and let the body release. Yeah, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is amazing, right? It's all about how trauma gets stored in the body, and it does. When you get activated into your sympathetic nervous system in a moment where something crazy happens and you don't physically release, you have to somatically release it. The same way the animals do in the animal kingdom. They get chased by a predator, they hide, they get away, and they drop to the floor and they shake it out. Yeah? I can't remember which singer it was, but shake it out, shake it, really shake it out. They literally shake out. Think of it as a toxin. So the toxin goes into all the muscles and the tissues and the fibers of your body and your brain. If you don't get rid of it after the threat or the scare has passed, it will stay and your nervous system will remember it. So next time something similar happens, you get triggered. And even though you've just met that person for 10 minutes and they triggered you, but you're getting that belly feeling and that chest feeling like you've just been dumped by a 10-year relationship. Because you never ever dealt with it. You never actually let that trauma go. You never somatically released it. So yeah. Wow. So yeah, that's what's happening in the body. That's what we do in breathwork. And then combine that with the sound journeys and the sound healing and the coaching and the way I guide people through these different journeys. And we have 10 of them now. It's insane. So coming back to your question is, yes, I'm still doing my creative work, but this started off as a single class that I did as a side hustle for a bit of fun because I got so much from it. So I wanted to help other people. And then it became 2 classes, 3 classes, 4 classes. Now I'm making more money from doing this than I am from doing my 20-long-year profession. What is going on? And then suddenly I've got breath instructors asking if they can teach it. Now, I think I've got 16 different instructors around the world in 16 different cities. And we've only company officially has only been open since September. And we've grown so fast. I've been doing this for a long time, obviously. But yeah. It's just blew up. Like tomorrow I'm on a flight to Riyadh to launch a new instructor in Saudi. And then I'm flying straight to Kuala Lumpur to launch a new instructor there. And then Hong Kong. And then I'm back to Dubai. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm launching a new country every week.
Beautiful. And so it's nuts. It's incredible. I love that scientific explanation that you just gave me because I understood these things on a very surface level, but now I fully comprehend.
There's so much more to it as well, honestly. This is kind of what we actually teach people this in the class. Not as long as I just said it for you. We do a shorter version because we want people to understand the science and we want people to know that IMD is not a woo-woo class. You're not going to sing, you're not going to hold hands, you're not going to do any sharing, you're not going to do anything weird like, that most people would go, oh, I don't want to do that, that's embarrassing. You show up, you listen, we talk to you, we tell you what's going to happen, we tell you the science. You put the headphones on, you put the mask on, you're on your own journey for an hour and 10 minutes. You come back, you listen to us, we talk to you. We tell you what, did this come up? Did you feel this? Who felt this? Everyone puts their hands up. We don't do any sharing. And then when the class is done, we give people 10, 15 minutes to come back around. And if they want to ask any questions, they can. So everyone can come.
So What's the best way for people to experience this? Because obviously you guys have an online presence and
Yeah,
you have some content, yeah, online and stuff. And you've got those little meditations that you can do online, but it feels to me like this is something that has to be
it
experienced
does.
in
Yeah.
person.
So
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there are people out there that will do these breathing techniques online with you. I don't believe it's very safe. It's a short answer. I've done stuff on myself and pushed myself too far and woken up 4 hours later, not having a clue what
I,
happened in the last 4 hours. Now imagine,
that's one of the big fears. I fear like I'm going to pass
right?
out.
So I didn't pass out. I went so deep into my practice that I was basically in my subconscious, in my alternate states of consciousness for so long. And I know my limits. That's why it's, we don't do it online, because we want people to go so deep that they actually deal with traumas from God knows when. And most traumas surface from before the age of 7. So we
Yeah.
actually want them to get there. You cannot do that on your own. It's not safe, because there's a lot of contraindications that we talk about at the beginning of class, like, does anyone have a heart problem, a lung problem, asthma, hypertension, high or low blood pressure, any recent surgeries? If you're pregnant, you cannot do this at all. Any medication we should know about, anyone psychiatrically unstable as deemed by a professional, you can't, there's so many things that we need to be careful of. Like pregnancy, absolute no. We're lowering the oxygen release in the body. Imagine what that does to the fetus. And there are
Right.
breathwork instructors out there that do this and say, oh, it's fine up to the first 3 months. And then you look at the stats, and most miscarriages happen in the first 3 months. So there's so much misknowledge out there at the moment, because breathwork is so new and it's a trend and everyone's jumping on it. But the 10-minute examples online are, sound-wise, they're similar. They're not as advanced as the ones we do in class, because obviously I'm not going to spend 6 weeks creating something that I'm going to give away for free. I'm not that crazy.
Yeah.
So they are cool. You can experience them. They're great for every day. I do my 10-minute breathwork practice every single morning. It's all I do. I wake up, I have my coffee, which I know I shouldn't do, but I'm obsessed with coffee. It's my one massive vice. Love coffee. I have a beautiful coffee machine where I grind the beans. It's all a process. Love it. I sit on the balcony. I watch the sun come up over the building, so I get the lights. And then I sit and I do about 10 minutes of breathing every single morning. And I notice the days that I forget to do it. Like the days I do it, I don't notice it. I'm good, I'm productive, I get stuff done. My ADHD is calm for most of the day. Most of the day. But it's now 11 o'clock here, so it's spiking up again. So it completely levels me for the day, and I just feel amazing. And the days I don't do it, I notice that my attention isn't as good. I lose focus quickly. I didn't get as much done. I'm a little bit more ratty. Maybe I'll be like, oh. So I really noticed those single 10 minutes at the beginning of the day have such a strong effect on my day. So my huge recommendation for people is, obviously you're talking about what I'm creating is called the 10-minute fix. Eventually there'll be 50 of them, and it'll be like an app and stuff, but we'll get there. But the point is, at the moment, we've got 2 on the website. They're absolutely free. There's one for the morning and there's one if you've got stress. So there's one you can use all day. Just put your headphones in and just breathe and just follow the guidelines. We've given away for free for 2 reasons. One, after the class, we want something for people to take away and continue to practice, even if they don't come back. And 2, you're quite right. If you're not in a place to come to one of our 2-hour classes, then go and experience the 10-minute stuff. But yeah, short version is, I would not do any transformational breathwork online. Parasympathetic breathwork, go all day long. Slow breathing, brilliant. But the fast breathing stuff, this is my advice. I'm sure a million people are going to comment and disagree. But I would steer clear and go and see a local instructor that knows what they're doing and can look after you and guide you through. Because it's not just about the breathing, it's also about the trauma release. I don't know how you're going to be after class. You might be in a rage after class and so angry with whatever's been come up for you. You might be crying your heart out afterwards. You might be a bit zoned out still. You need someone who knows what they're doing and can deal with that and be there with you after the class as well. So yeah, there is that.
And is a one class experience good enough, or do most people want to come for like a retreat, multi-day, that kind of
So
stuff? Like
I love this
yeah,
question.
tell me about those experiences.
One session, I promise you will shift so much. If you breathe correctly and if you follow the instructions and you do everything we ask you, and don't, kind of hold back or don't restrict yourself and let go, you will shift so much in one session. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of all your traumas, but breathwork gives you what you need now. Okay. So whatever is going on with you, whether you realize it or you don't realize it, whether it's subconscious or in the front of your mind, it will help you deal with that in the moment. So you will instantly feel lighter, calmer, more clarity, more in control, more grounded. We have so many people running away like, oh my God, I felt like this. It was amazing. I got this. My favorite story. I'll tell you one story. This was quite soon into my kind of breathwork career with IMD. He came and did a journey, and at the beginning of the session, he was kind of the typical guy looking at me like I'm talking rubbish, questioning everything I'm saying. I could see it. And then he did session, and he was crying his heart out. He was releasing, he was shaking, everything was going on with this guy. Afterwards, his eyes were like, and I was like, you okay? Yeah. And he left, right? I was like, okay, cool. He's fine, good. Came back the next week. Big smile on his face. And I went, are you all right, buddy? He was like, yeah, mate, I'm back. I was like, I know, I can see, how are you feeling? How was it? He goes, I don't know what you did to me last week, but my wife says I'm a nice person now, so I have to come back. I was like, that's just the best story ever. And he came back. He came to about 5 sessions in a row, weekly. And then after that, I didn't see him until like a couple of months later, and he came back for a session or 2, and then he went off again. So the way I see this, and this is what I see repeatedly, some people come to one session and they're like, my life has changed. It's amazing. They're normally the people right at the beginning of their journey in terms of learning to heal holistically, using themselves rather than medication. And they feel such an impact that they feel so much better than they did before. We will see them in 3 or 4 months when they want to continue their journey. Then there's the people that have been doing bits and pieces, and they come, because they've tried this, they've tried hypnotherapy, they've tried this, they've been to Bali, they've done all the jobs. They will generally come to about 5 sessions in a row. And then after that, we see them for maintenance. I think it's kind of like that. And then what happens is another trauma will come up for them that they haven't seen in 10 years. And they're like, oh my God, I met this guy or girl and they triggered me, and I haven't felt like this in 10 years because I haven't had the opportunity to feel like this. And it was buried. And now it's up. So I want to deal with it. So they come back and you see them for consecutive weeks. Do you see what I mean? So it's an ongoing process. It never actually stops. You chip away.
Because there's the different layers.
I'll give you exactly like I just told. Prime stories. I do it every single week without fail. You'll see videos online, me crying and releasing and showing people that I literally live what I preach. And I do my morning breathwork every day. And some weeks I'm like, I just go and I just feel less stressed. Then other weeks I cry my heart out and I'm like sobbing, and my local instructor here is like holding me like I'm in fetal position. And then I had this experience where I met this girl, right? I'm single. But I met this girl, right? And she just ticked every box for me. It was like, oh my God, I've met the perfect girl. And she was so communicative with me, and there was no games, and everything was working great, right? Felt amazing. And then suddenly it just dropped. Out of nowhere, the communication went from here to here. And I felt I'd known this girl like 4 days, right? 4 days. And I was so triggered. I had tightness in my chest. And in that organ grinder in your belly when you know you're going to be dumped. And it's like, oh God. I'm like, why am I feeling this so strong? I don't know this girl. I should be able to just go, oh, whatever. If you don't realize who I am, that's fine, go away. And I had to really think about it. And then I realized there was a relationship that I was in like 8 years ago where the same thing happened. This person went away to do a job and it became a long distance thing. Oh, sorry, that was a vital part of the story. This was a long distance thing. I met here and then she went somewhere else. And then suddenly I remember the communication dropping, and that person was actually being unfaithful and betrayed my trust. So I had evidence that when the communication drops, that means this, right? So that's the trauma, because I never really dealt with it. I just pushed it down and distracted myself.
Yeah.
So it came up. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like it's that trigger. So it was stuck in my nervous system. And I felt everything I felt 8 years ago. That was when I went, right, I know how to deal with this now. I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago. So I stopped all my work. And I mean, I'm a workaholic. I will sit at the computer from morning till night and forget time. Time doesn't exist when I'm like involved in something I love. So you're laughing because you're the same. So boom, completely hyper-focused. So I stopped
Yeah.
everything. First thing I did, I did a journey. I did a 2-hour journey and I carried it on. I did an extended journey. And I breathed and I cried my heart out. And then I sat on the balcony. I went to the beach. I sat. I let the thoughts come. I let the thoughts come. Come and go, come and go, come and go. Thank you, but I don't need you anymore. Thank you, but I don't need you anymore. And I did this for 4 days straight, every day, breath work. Another 2-hour session, sit on the beach. Another 2-hour session, sit on the beach. Day 4, I lost my voice. Not because of the breath work. Now, it depends if you believe in this. So I do see an energy healer. Half of me doesn't believe it at all, but I believe she believes it. And I feel great afterwards. So something is happening. I just can't prove it. So I don't really believe it, right? So I said to her, this is what happened, and it brought it up. But it only took me 4 days to really shift it. Okay, I lost my voice, but the feelings were gone. That horrible feeling, and I was able to kind of basically say, "Go away" to that person. I don't need this game playing. I just don't need it. And she went, "Why did you think you lost your voice?" So I don't know. I did too much breath work. She was like, "Come on, you know better than that." I was like, "Okay, what is it?" She was like, "Well, what is it? What do you feel like you didn't resolve in that relationship? What did you need to be complete?" And I thought about it and I was like, I never got to tell her how she made me feel. I never spoke up in the moment because I was too scared I would lose her, because I genuinely thought I couldn't do better at the time. There were so many things that involved me not saying it, not speaking into power, not having my power back. That's why I lost my voice.
Yeah.
Mad. I love this stuff. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's like another cool story, how breath work.
I am sure you've got thousands of these stories.
And they
Absolutely.
keep building.
I want to I want to shift the
Go
topic
on.
a little bit. I'm so fascinated by this work, and obviously, I'm going to be getting in my calendar here, and I got to find a way to experience
Come,
this,
Habib.
because I know that there's stuff that I haven't processed and dealt with, and I think I've been looking for the modality to help me get there. And this is obviously just smacking me in the face. Like this is definitely the work you have to try. Let's shift the conversation though a little bit, and let's talk a little bit of branding and
Okay.
marketing, because I ran across a documentary that you did for dancers,
Oh, you did
helping
your
them with their
research.
branding and building their career
Yeah.
and stuff. And you've done something really unique, because there's a lot of breathwork coaches out there,
Mm.
and they struggle to get clients. And you're talking about launching a breathwork business in
Mm.
September, and you're expanding globally.
Yeah.
Why do you think, from a branding and marketing creative perspective, why do you think what you're doing has hit and is taking off like this? What did you do differently with your branding, with your marketing approach,
Okay.
with your
Well,
messaging?
one, we stayed away from anything woo-woo, spiritual. We stuck to science, and we're going to continue to do that. What we do is all backed by science. We can talk about it to the ends of the earth about what it's doing in the body and what the sound healing is doing in the brain. So that's one thing. We, like I said to you earlier, you're not going to dance, you're not going to share your feelings, you're not going to hold hands with anyone you've never met. None of these things that the average guy and girl are embarrassed to do. It's like, I don't want to go, I don't want to talk about my feeling in front of a bunch of strangers. I don't want to dance around because I can't dance. I don't want to hold someone's sweaty hand. Come on. And talking man to man as well, trying to get men to do stuff like this is a bigger struggle. And we are
Yeah.
quite proud to say that in Dubai, a lot of our ratio is about 50% men, 50% women. And that's unheard
Mm-hmm.
of in this industry. And the reason I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good is because we're bridging that gap, right? We're bridging that gap between what is considered healing. Oh, in that healing space where you've got to be spiritual, you've got to dress with lots of beads and long hair and have a man bun and, all the stereotypes. We've shifted away from that. If you look at all our stuff online, it's very bold, it's very in your face, it's very direct, it's very straight to the point. It's very, very on trend, not for breathwork, but on trend for social media, right? So we're not
Mm.
trying to look like another wellness company. We're trying to look like a company that is direct to the point, and this is what we do. So I do believe we are bridging that gap between the people that would never normally come to something like this and getting them in the room. And
Yeah.
that's what we've been trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's education, you know, people still don't know what breathwork is, let alone breathwork with sound healing, IMD. What are these headphones? I thought this was meditation. No, it's not meditation. It's very far away from meditation.
Right.
Meditation is the other end. So, trying to get people to understand that this is not meditation. You're going to cry, you're going to shake. We tell you to scream. We literally say 3, 2, 1, scream, and you scream it out. Cathartic. It's not a therapy. We're combining all these therapies together. So a lot of our branding is education based, and we show people, here's the videos. People are too scared to film in classes sometimes, but we ask permission. Who doesn't mind being filmed? And if they don't mind, then we'll film them. And then we can show people what we do. Every single instructor around the world that we take on is qualified before we even talk to them. So we don't just teach them our methodology, and we don't just teach them how we do things. They have to be qualified already. And we do test, because a lot of the courses out there are terrible. They don't teach barely anything to do with the science, to the point where I'm actually creating a course. It's going to take me a long time, but I've already started to create something over here where people can learn about the breath. They don't have to be an instructor, but they can just learn about the breath and understand it properly. Because once you understand the science behind it and the ratios and everything that's going on in the body, you can work out your own stuff. You don't need to follow what this person said you should do. You go, wait a minute. So I know that the heart speeds up when I breathe in and it slows down on the way out. So wait, if I breathe in faster and slower out, my heart should go slower, right? So I should relax. Doesn't take a genius. The basics that people just don't know. We didn't get taught this in school. I don't know if you did. If you're lucky.
No, I never got taught how to breathe.
Right? So yeah, and that's the thing, is it's the most basic function in the world. You can starve yourself for a week and you'll survive. You can not drink for a week and you'll survive. Try stop breathing for more than an hour. More than 10 minutes. You can't survive. It's literally your life. It's the one thing that keeps you going. So why don't we know more about it? So yeah, a lot of our branding is education, 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 education. And we want to be seen as the experts in our field, basically. So eventually people will come to us to learn. And that's what I also want to do on the side. But yeah, IMD is simple. It's easy. You show up, you listen, you breathe, you leave. Done.
I love that. That's a really
Yeah.
nice, simple, clean message.
Easy.
So what's the vision? I mean, you're so early in this business, less than a
Yeah, I
year and
know.
already what do you see here? Without going too
Yeah.
crazy, because I know creators, we can go crazy with our
Yes.
visions and
And I
and
do.
and stuff. But where do you see this business taking you?
I honestly have no idea. I didn't know it would come this far. So one thing I know I love traveling and I love helping people. And right now, that's kind of where it's going. Like, I used to run the classes in Dubai because it was how I started. I've handed it over to an instructor locally. So I'm now a free bird to run around the world, launching new instructors, meeting new people, helping new people. I just want it to expand. I just want to help as many people in the world as possible, like genuinely, really genuinely.
Yeah.
So if I can build a career and a business out of it that actually keeps me alive, amazing. That would be brilliant.
Isn't it incredible? I mean, that's why I love this industry. It's to see interesting people, and this is one of the reasons we launched this
Yeah.
podcast, is to meet interesting people like yourself that have a passion for helping others in different and unique ways, and who are building, beautiful, successful businesses, doing exactly that. I mean, how much more fulfilling can it be? Brendon, we're going to share all the links for your websites and your social media right here. Can you just tell people how can they get in touch with you? What should they do next?
Super, super
And
simple.
how can
Everything
they
is the
take a
same.
class?
IMD, Immersive Multidimensional Breathwork. It's the website, it's the Instagram, it's the Twitter, it's the TikTok, it's the YouTube. And then if you find that, you'll find a link to me as well, Brendon Hansford. Easy peasy.
Love it. Awesome. Brendon, this has been a really great conversation. I love your passion. And I'm going to be following you and watching the growth of this
Yeah.
business and just seeing what you guys are up to, and definitely have to go check out a class.
Yes,
So
yes.
I just want to thank you again. I want to thank you for your passion and for your mission
Bless you.
and for
Thank
what you're
you for
doing
having me
for
on.
others in this world. It's a huge thing. This has been a really great conversation. Thank you
No
so
worries.
much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, guys. If you are a coach, consultant, trainer, or expert, and you're looking for some clarity in your marketing and branding, just a reminder, come join us for that Digital Mentors Compass workshop. Again, it's compassworkshop.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your network and your audiences and anyone that could use and benefit from the work that Brendon is doing around the world. This has been a conversation between two coaches.